Hi, my name is Carlos, and I'm happy to show you with only 3 real SAT questions how to approach the SAT correctly. So let's go ahead and get started. And here we are. First, we will want to go to the College Board official website. So there you go. You can see we have 8 tests. So it's going to look for practice test number 1. Practice test 1. There you go. Nice. So let's jump right into the math section. Because this is where most people tend to leave tons of points behind. Obviously, I will invite you to practice only with official practice test or official SAT test because you would want to become familiar with the vocabulary that the College Board uses. And obviously, there are a ton of materials out there, but the best resources are the ones created by the College Board. So I'm just going to go straight to section 3. There you go. The truth is that the SAT is not just your traditional school test. The SAT is a test of reason, a logic test if you wish. So, when you approach the SAT, you must be resourceful. You have to be clever. Question number 7 is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you approach it like most people, this question will take you longer than 30 seconds. And here's my first challenge. I challenge you to answer any of these questions in under 30 seconds. In fact, that's how you know that you're doing it correctly. So think about it for a moment. Most people will like to distribute, use algebra. They will see the fact that it has fractions and variables, and it will scare the heck out of a lot of test takers, a lot of students. So this is what I will recommend. When you look at the answer choices, you can see that what we have to do is solve for P. Okay? So then, if P is on this side, I'm going to be clever, and this is what I like you to do, is to start thinking outside the box and group some of these values. And just treat all of these as D for the denominator, and treat all of this, everything on the top, as the numerator. If I do that, now we have that M equals N over D, N for numerator, over the denominator times P. And there you have it. Notice how much cleaner and easier it is. So now we can use algebra. In fact, I'm going to go the traditional way from here. I'm going to take the traditional route. D, the denominator, is dividing. So we'll go ahead and multiply both sides by the denominator. There you go. And now you have that dm equals np. And obviously, in order to solve for p, you would divide both sides by n. And now, here you have it. P equals, because these will cross cancel, dm over n. So you remember, D stands for your denominator. So notice how what it was on the bottom now is on top. And what was on the top, your numerator, is now at the bottom. And the only answer choice that gives us the whole denominator on the top is actually B, and the whole numerator on the bottom still B. So the right answer here is B. Now, obviously, you didn't have to go this approach. You don't have to solve it this way, but I'm hoping that this illustrates the point that you don't have to approach it like everybody else. You must be resourceful. You have to be clever. All right? And let's scroll down a little and find you another one. Let's see if I can find it here. There you go. Look at that. Question 8 is just beautiful. So you try it. Please pause this video now, and I'll guide you through it in a little bit. All right. Hope that went well. Here is how I would have done it. Ready? Question number 8 reads, what is the value of 4b over a if a over b equals 2. Again, you don't want to approach it like most people would. This is not a school test. But something that we know is that if they're giving us a piece of information, is because it's relevant. In fact, I have found that the SAT doesn't really give you information that is unnecessary. Every single piece is there for a reason. So what we want to do is remember that if a over b is a fraction, why not just write 2 as a fraction? 2 over 1 is still a fraction. And if you look at it correctly, we could assume, in this case, that a would equal 2 and that b could equal 1. And if that's the case, then just go ahead and plug it in. So that would be 4 times 1 over 2. That's just 4 halves, and that just reduces to 2. There you go. And that's it. That's how I would have done it. Okay? Easy? Wonderful. Let's see. Let's find you just another one. A third question where we can show you how to tackle the SAT correctly. Look at that. Question 13 is another great question. Wonderful. All right. So, if x is greater than 3, which of the following is equivalent to, and then we have a monster here, right? A lot of people will be afraid to death over these type of questions. So what are we going to do? All right. Let's look at it carefully. You don't want to just jump right into the question. You want to use logic. Remember, this is a reason test. It's not a school test. So let's read it. Which of the following is equivalent? Equivalent means of the same value, right? And the College Board is telling you that x is greater than 3. So while a lot of people will start doing algebra and combining fractions and finding common denominators and who knows what I recommend is that you plug in easy numbers. And if they're telling us that x must be greater than 3, why in the world not just use x equals 4? That's it. So let's go ahead and plug that in and see what happens. Ready? If we have then, let me just rewrite this for you. 1 over 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 over 4 plus 3, that's 7. And now you still have a fraction here. So let's go ahead and combine this piece. Now, I want to show you something else. You must know your fractions. You must own your fractions. Just like the multiplication tables that you had to memorize once before. Well, fractions must become your best friends. Make them your allies. And if you need help with that, there are a ton of resources available out there, or shoot me an email. I want to be able to help you out with this. Fractions are a must. All right? So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and find the sum with a common denominator. The common denominator between 6 and 7 is actually their product. So 6 times 7, in this case, we're going to have 42. So I'm going to do it this way. What I'm going to do is multiply this denominator by 7, but whatever I do on the bottom, I also need to do it on the top. That's what we have to do when you're doing with fractions. And then that 7 must be multiplied by 6, and whatever I do at the bottom, I also need to do it on top. So now, that gives me a new equation. 1 over 1 times 7 is 7 over 42 plus 1 times 6 is 6 over 42 there you go. And then what we want to do here is add them up, right? So that's 1 over 13 over 42. Now obviously if you have a 1 on the top, all that they're asking you to do is to give me the reciprocal. So if you go ahead and do that, that will give us 42 over 13. Now, all that we have to do is plug in, because remember, we're looking for the one that is equivalent. we're going to plug in 4 into our answer choices to find the one that will give us the exact same value. Now, if you pay close attention, answer choices C and D cannot be the right answer, for our answer is a fraction itself. So let's go ahead and plug 4. Let's do it on A. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. But now that gave us 13 on the top. It's not going to be the right answer because our 13 should be at the bottom. So obviously the only one that works is going to be B. And that was it. So if you made it this far, I tell you what, let's do one more. Let's see, question 14 or 15. Let's find you one. Let's see. How about an open-ended question? Look at that. Question 17 looks fun. So let's try that one. All right. It says, what is the value of x? Notice how I'm starting with the actual question. And don't be afraid of writing on the booklet. For example, in this case, I would label everything on the actual picture. So from A to E, I can tell that the distance is x feet. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for the value of x. The length represented by AB, EB, BD, and CD on the sketch were determined to be, and in this case you can see, if this is a math test, of course they're going to give us values, right? So it is 1800 feet, 1400 feet, and 700 feet, and 800 feet, respectively. So AB is going to be 1800. EB is going to be 1400, right here. That's from here to here. And then 700 feet is BD. And finally, it's telling us that CD is going to be 800 feet. Now, go ahead and pause this video and give it a try. Well, I hope you did very well, and if not, this is how I would have done it. Ready? There has to be a key, and I see that these two triangles have an angle in common, and that makes me believe that these two triangles must be proportional. So, if you look carefully, EB is 1400, which happens to be twice as much as BD, right? Which tells me that every side is going to be twice as much or double of whatever the small triangle is going to be. And if B or CD is 800, then I can say that AE is going to be twice as much, 1600. And now we just found the answer, which is 1600. Notice how I didn't have to find this side. Notice how I didn't have to do a lot of math. Again, it was a reason test or a logic test. And boom, that was it. I tell my students, when you do such a good job, just drop the mic. Now that you know how to approach the SAT, in fact, how to approach the SAT correctly, not as a school test, but a logic test. So go ahead and treat it like that. Treat it like a brain game, if you wish. And hey, I also know how stressful and tedious your SAT preparation can be. And that's why I have a gift for you. 13 secrets on how to approach or tackle the SAT like a pro, in a short and a simple infographic. So I want to thank you again for spending the time here with me. So go ahead and click or tap the button below to get your 13 tips infographic today. Good luck, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.